Jack McKenney from the National Sports Media Association here, and I am here with David Teel, ACC legend. David, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about this award and what it means to you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate you having me. And by legend, is that your kind way of saying that I'm a little elderly?
Yeah, I mean, hey man, Wake Forest fan for 21 years. Come on.
Yeah. No, the award is terrific, and it's very humbling, especially because it comes, number one, from an organization that has been so kind to me over the years and helpful in my career with professional opportunities and networking, things such as that. And also because it's an award voted on by your peers. And those they mean more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. Wes McElroy was also telling me about that, and how much that means to him is it's voted on by your peers, and that's certainly really special. So tell us a little bit about your story, how you got involved in the business, and what you went through over the years to get into this position.
Well, I got into it in large measure, Jack, thanks to my dad. Mm-hmm. He could just tell from the very start. You said you were a Wake Forest fan, mm-hmm. Birth. I was a sports fan, yeah, from birth. And I think it actually used to bug my dad that I spent so much time glued to the television watching any game that was on. And each morning before he left for work, he would put the sports section of the newspaper under my pillow while I slept. So I would wake up, and before I even got out of bed, I'm reading the newspaper, not the news, but the sports. And then one afternoon, while I was watching a game, I was 9 years old, and he handed me a piece of notebook paper and a pencil and said, "Why don't you write about what you are watching?" And I've been literally writing about sports ever since. And it's, as I often joke with my friends, it's terminal adolescence. I haven't had to grow and get a real job. There's no calluses on these hands. No manual labor involved. Not that I'm capable of manual labor, mind you, but it's a wonderful experience and a wonderful profession, and I'm just incredibly privileged.
Yeah, that's just an awesome story. I mean, that I remember my mom would always say to me, like, stop watching SportsCenter. To start writing, at the age of 9. I mean, that's really incredible and skilled. I certainly did not have the coordination to do that.
Well, I'll tell you, and we still have some of the things I wrote.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dude, yeah, it's this tortured cursive in pencil on these wide line sheets of paper, and it's so painful, of course, riddled with spelling errors, and I'm sure mangled syntax and all, but it still is a reminder of how long I've been doing this and how long it's been a passion.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So were there any teachers, any educational mentors that kind of helped refine your writing and also inspire you to keep doing this profession and also give you confidence?
Oh gosh, too many to recognize, Jack. There was a teacher in junior high school named Mrs. Reed. I still remember the name. She told me and my parents that I had a flair for writing, and she encouraged this, and I joined the staff of the junior high paper. And then Sharon Halloran was our teacher in high school who ran the student newspaper. And then I attended James Madison University, where all my professors were very encouraging. I remember one in particular, a guy named Roger Wells, who was a former news reporter with the Roanoke Times. And he came as a professor of practice at JMU, and he was very influential. Elliot Weiser was another professor there at JMU on the electronic side, radio and broadcasting, who encouraged me to, broaden my horizons a little bit. And then so many editors, since I graduated, who have been so kind and gracious and helping me and giving me the opportunities to cover some really neat things.
So let's talk about a little bit about what you've been covering, right? The ACC, obviously so many great memories, so many great tournaments you've been to. What are just some things that you're going to remember when you retire, and just some lifetime memories you've made, out of this profession?
Well, first of all, it's the people, right? I mean, yes, there are memories of events and Christian Laettner at the buzzer to beat Kentucky, and Michael Vick in the national championship game against Florida State, and UVA winning the national title in Minneapolis in 2019. Things like the 96 Summer Olympics in Atlanta. Those are events that you never forget. But it's more so the people. It's the athletes and the coaches and the administrators who entrusted their story to you, who gave of their time and offered their insight and sat down with you or spent time with you on the phone. And, those are the folks that writers are indebted to, because, we're nothing without good material, right? And those folks have been so gracious to me over the years. And then my fellow sports writers. Yeah. Yes, we compete, but maybe not as much as folks might think. We're more friends because we live kind of a similar lifestyle, and we're in the press box or on press row together all the time. And you just form bonds that literally will go on, after I retire.
Yeah. And I think something that's so special about that is, I remember, I was in this professional class and they were asking me, think of people who you want to work with. And, when you're in that business, right, you're working with like-minded people. And, regardless if, what your guys' backgrounds are, et cetera, you can just bond with them over sports, right? Because that's what you write about. That's your job. And I think that's really, really neat. For sure.
Yeah. And you bond initially over sports, Jack, but then you find that you share life experiences also. You get married, you have a family, you lose loved ones. I've lost my mom and dad, and some of the greatest support that I got during those times was from my fellow writers, not only at the publication I was working for, but those at others, at other outlets. And for that, I'm always in debt.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So turning the discussion, let's talk about young professionals like me. What advice do you have for people like me trying to break into the profession? And what might I have to expect as, being in this profession?
Well, the advice I always give young folks, Jack, is educationally diversify yourself as much as possible. As tempting as it is to hone in on what you excel at and your major or your concentration, yes, nurture that, but also explore other areas, not only of the journalism profession, but liberal arts, business, law, mathematics, even though, that sometimes it's a dirty word, but the more you have that broad-based education, I think the better off you are, because all of our jobs, I wish I had a law degree in sports these days. As many issues as land in the courts, I wish I was more conversant about legal matters in sports. I wish I had a better, I think I'm pretty handy with numbers, but I wish I was better at it to better understand analytics and things that baseball and basketball and football coaches really look at these days when it comes to evaluating personnel and dictating strategy. So I think those types of courses and explorations when you're in college are very valuable. And then when it comes to your career, I think you have to be versatile, be comfortable writing, be comfortable podcasting, be comfortable on social media. You won't be as skilled at all of them. You're going to find your niche, but make sure you are at least competent at all of it, because if you're not, it's going to be harder to stay in the profession because the profession is always evolving. Does any of that make sense? I feel like I'm rambling here for you.
No, it perfectly makes sense. In one of my discussions with an interview prior, Ryan Ford from the Detroit Free Press, he was telling me, you got to be versatile with your writing. You got to be able to write about NHL, about MLB, about NBA, because that's something that's really attractive. When they're looking to hire people is, being able to write about multiple sports and also having different skills besides just writing, which is something that I'm focusing on as a statistics minor. But yeah, no, that's great advice for sure. Let's talk about your most recent story. Armando Bacot, who's returning to UNC. What are your thoughts on this? And, what does that have on the ACC shaping up next year?
Well, first of all, I work at the Richmond Times-Dispatch, and Armando is a Richmond native, and spent 3 varsity seasons there at Trinity Episcopal. So there's intense local interest in Armando, and we saw that with our online viewership as Carolina was going through the NCAA tournament and reaching the Final Four and eventually the national championship game, where he was nothing less than gallant, right? I mean, there he is playing essentially on one leg. He can't jump any higher than you or me. And he still gets 15 rebounds and 15 points. It was remarkable. And then he's hopping down the court there with 30 seconds to go after having re-injured the ankle. And it was the whole performance, through 6 games in the tournament was just remarkable. And he's such a personable young man. He won the Carlton Tudor Award from Triangle Area Media as the athlete who's most engaging, cooperative with reporters. And I thought it was so richly deserved because he's a good interview, and he's frank, and he doesn't pull punches, and he's enlightening. And his return, you're talking about somebody who will rewrite the Carolina record books in terms of rebounding. And think of all the great players that have gone through that program, right? And I think his mere presence next year, he'll be a preseason All-American. He may well indeed be the preseason player of the year nationally, certainly in the ACC. I think the Tar Heels are national contenders next season, regardless of what Caleb Love and RJ Davis decide. I think Leaky Black probably returns. And if Davis and Love come back, boy, there's a heck of a core for a second-year head coach in Hubert Davis to build around.
Yeah, as a Wake Forest fan, certainly hope this not happen.
Sorry to be so discouraged.
But Mr. Teel, thank you so much for coming on today. Congratulations on your award, and really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Jack. Thanks again.